Greetings, beautiful soul. I've been so long. I won't pretend. How could I give in? I choose to sing and to start out with music and love. I have tried. Today is March 17, 2020. I'm actually recording a preliminary video that's an introduction to a series of dreams that I had starting from March 11th, 2020. And it's broken up into, I believe it's 3 to 4 segments of this video. It starts out with a dream that I had with my twin, my beloved, Rondi. And it goes on for actually 31 minutes and 13 seconds. And then what happened is the day that I had that dream, Tavon, who's also on a twin soul path, very much connected to me also as a twin ray. At the same time that he was sleeping, he was also simultaneously having a dream to do with his beloved, and Rondi appeared to him in the dream as well. At the same time he was having that dream, it was approximately sometime between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. in the morning of March 11th. And myself, I was having my dream just about around the same time, and I didn't know that he was. So he reached out to me around, I believe it was around 3 to 4 a.m. in the morning. And I already had recorded the dream that I had, so to do with myself and Rondi. And I was like, oh my God, there's no coincidence with any of this. I knew and I felt that something definitely was happening and occurring energetically between myself and Rondi. And something was also coming through to do with the spring equinox that's coming up, and how I felt that Rondi and myself were actually in the astral plane and we were interacting with one another. So I can tell when it's just a dream, and I can tell when it's actually an interaction that we're having through our etheric bodies on the astral plane. And what was interesting is that right before I went to sleep, I said, I was talking out loud in a way, like verbally out loud. It wasn't in my thoughts. It was in my thoughts, but I was speaking out loud. And I said, wonder what's going on with Rondi. And I went to sleep. And then that's when he came to me and showed me what was occurring between himself and myself and so on. So I'm not going to really spoil too much about what the dream is about, but it definitely is in relation to the equinox, the spring equinox that's coming up March 21st, as well as the fact that Saturn is moving and returning into Aquarius, which is my sign. Yay! I've heard a lot of positive things that are coming through for us to do with Saturn moving into Aquarius. It is, I guess I would suggest that you look it up to see how it aspects for you in your chart astrologically. For myself, it's significant because I've had to push through all of this Capricorn energy, especially for the past 2 years from the time that I felt affected during the Leo Aquarius eclipse season from 2017. So I'm very well aware of myself and where my path leads me to, what it means for myself and the planet, what it means for myself and Rondi is who we are as twin pairs, and other twin pairs, not just myself. So it's important for you to know what you feel in your heart and soul, to where you're being led by your soul, and what's the next step, what's the next stage to all of this, especially with what I would call and term the apocalyptic pandemonium, but I call it also the blessing of how the divine shows up for us in what we have desired and have reached the end of a time in our lives of what we have created to understand ourselves and where we are being taken to the next stage of our new beginnings. So I'm going to first discuss what does the spring equinox mean for the planet, for yourself individually, what it means for us collectively, and also for those who are on the twin soul path, what does it mean for you? And from the time when I go into that discussion, I'm also just going to describe to you what you're going to be listening to after you finish watching, seeing me talking here. And it's like I'm going to put in the segment of the first dream that I had on March 11th, which was approximately, I would say between, it felt like it ran on for 25 minutes, like I was literally watching a movie. And it turned out to be 31 minutes and 13 seconds. You won't know that because all of the segments I'm going to be putting together to do with the dreams, because after that I'm going to play the dream that Tavon sent to me, to what he was having, unbeknownst to him that I had my dream to do it myself and Rondi. And then after that, I was led to going back to a voice note that I left for Rondi back in 2017. It was actually, I believe it was November. I was hoping I was to remember, but I believe it was November 2017, and I believe it was either November 6th or November 16th, or somewhere in that region. But it was definitely during the month of November, and I do specify the date in the recordings. So what's interesting about that voice note is that, of course, it was not opened up because I was blocked on WhatsApp by him at that time, but I was still sending stuff, putting it into those notes. So if anything that I wanted to remember what was happening during the course and time of my ascension process, that's in relation to him and myself, that I would be jarred to remember things. And I'm so grateful that I did. So I happen to have forwarded a voice note that I had between myself and Monique. Hey, Monique. She was one of my soul sisters that I was in communication with at that time. We would go through updates of ourselves and what was happening on our journey. And what's interesting about that voice note, why I was being led by Rondi's higher self to go back and look at it, was the fact that it was 11 minutes and 11 seconds. And I was also talking about the light and the shadow, the light and the dark, and the aspect of myself in relation to him, and also my other divine masculine, and what it meant for us with merging and integrating the light and the shadow, which is significant because there's different times of the year that this is happening. But it is even just as much significant during this spring equinox, because it's like I felt from what I described in the dream, it's like we were coming together, meeting each other as equals. And we were merging together as equals. And it's like the way how I felt within myself is like I merged with my divine masculine within me. And then I was connecting to him and to who he is and what he represents for me, as well as I was connecting to him and what I represent for him as far as his divine feminine. So it's incredibly interesting and awesome with how I was, because anytime I record any of my dreams, I'm just going straight into it, no filters, it's raw and it's open. So right after you're going to listen to the dream with Tavon, myself, and then you're going to hear the 1111 note. And then, interestingly, I went back to sleep and I had another dream after a few hours or so. This time it was earlier in the day. I think it was earlier in the day on March 11th still. And Rondi also paid another visit to me. I had another interaction with him in the astral plane, and there were other people that were involved, including my daughter-in-law, my grandchildren, and also other people that I knew and recognized. So, and it was just so fascinating how I pulled back the layers, and I also got divine messages that were flowing through to me, and it's still in relation to the spring equinox. I even said to myself, is this something that I'm going to want to share? Because it is very sacred, very personal for me. But I know that my journey, my path in and of itself is of a major significance. I've always been told by others how much they feel inspired by me and how I've helped so much for others to embrace their path, embrace their journey, because we are the stars, we are the moon and the earth. And we come together and we are each embodying parts of ourselves that we have never wanted to touch before. And it's the inner parts of ourselves and becoming naked to the soul and becoming naked to our beloveds, naked with ourselves, and where the and ourselves is just free and able to express ourselves and to be able to be in love with one another without feeling as if we were being dishonored with the love of who we are. So I'm going to go into the discussion of the spring equinox and what does it mean. So I went online to look up what does it mean as far as 2020, because of course other spring equinoxes that have occurred, it still has the same meaning, but 2020 has a new flavor. It's really here as a bang. I was actually looking at some memes that have been coming in one after the other, and I choose to not only understand what's occurring on the planet. I'm very, very empathic about what everyone is experiencing and feeling, but I feel like I'm at a place now where I have been able to master myself to detach from everyone's emotions and feelings, because I understand the greater picture of all of this. I do understand as well that each one of us is experiencing things differently. Some may take it more personal than others. Some may see it higher than others, and some may feel like they're ready to get out of here. They're ready to face their death and their own transition. And this death can show up in so many ways. It can be on the physical level, or it can be on the mental, spiritual level, emotional level, as well as etheric level. So I'm here to lead the way and to open the path to wisdom and understanding. And if you choose to be on that same realm with me, here I am, here we are. And I am grateful and thankful to each and every one of us as far as why we're here. Even if you don't remember why you're here, your soul remembers why you're here. And the key is to allow your soul to lead the way and to be open and surrender. Stay in love and remember that there is a greater picture to all of this. And everything is going to be all right, no matter what, no matter how it looks, no matter how it feels, and so it is. So anyway, I'm going to go into what I found, and this was from the Seasonal Soul. As you hear me speaking, this is exactly what the book is all about. It's like I put all the pieces together. Wherever, everything I say, everything I speak, everything that I put out there is all spiritually led. So even the memes, everything. So, there was one meme that said, if you check out my Instagram stories, the meme was about the alien, said they're watching us and they're sipping their tea or their drink or whatever. And, they're up to episode 2020. Then another one saying, if you wanted to know what 2020 looks like, there was a picture of the character from the Marvel comics. Can't remember his name now. But anyway, he was the one that caused all the destruction and calamity to what ended everything, the end game. You see what I'm saying? And no one ever thought that he would ever be defeated. So we're not here to necessarily defeat anything. We're here to understand what this path means for you in terms of your awakening process, in terms of your ascension process, whichever path that you have chosen for yourself before you incarnated onto the planet. And the key is to remember who you are. The more you remember who you are, the easier the path becomes for you. If you don't allow yourself to create dis-ease, then you shall be fine. Okay? And that's what I'm being guided to say. So anyway, I'm going to read what it says. What does the spring equinox mean for you spiritually and emotionally? And it says the spring equinox is a joyful, believe it or not, it's a joyful holiday centered around rebirth and growth. It is the arrival of spring. The earth is coming alive again, which is what I said in the video that I did today. I did the video, the live actually on Instagram. And I said the earth, Mother Earth, is actually becoming alive again because she's giving birth to herself. And any of the divine feminines, which all of us are tapped into, if you choose to this divine feminine energy, you will feel the power and you will feel more alive than you have ever felt before, even while you're dying. Okay? And that's exactly what this is. So it says here, the dark months are now over and we're moving into the warmth of the light. The sun will continue to grow until the summer solstice, which is in June, when it begins it's turned inward again. We start going inward. So, during the winter months, for those who are in the northern hemisphere, we would normally go inward and start to reflect and start to think, and also to go into more life reviews, however the case may be, and start looking within. And then now when spring comes in, now it's like, oh my God, I feel so good inside, and I've released a lot of stuff. I've let go of stuff. I've moved forward because I released more people out of my lives, or I released a job or a relationship or where I live. Something has left, and something is beginning anew. And so it says here, with the spring equinox, your spirit is waking up with new ideas and new dreams for your life. It's fresh, warm energy that has the power to make you feel alive and inspired. So some of you, during this time that you're going to be home, with your children or whoever, and you're starting anew, and you may feel more inspired. You will be able to find yourself again during this time of staying indoors, even though it may be coming, warm outside. And it's interesting because I was even saying to Charlize earlier, I should say yesterday now, I said, it's so nice that I can drive on the street and there's no traffic like before. And it reminds me of having a snowstorm and everybody's afraid to go out and drive in the storm. With me now, I love going outdoors, and where I have more room to drive, and I don't have to be worrying about what this person is doing, this other person. Anybody who's driven to New York, no, you got to drive for yourself and you have to drive for others when it comes to driving in New York. And so I looked at it as, for those who are having to be secluded or pulled away from others, is that this is the time to reflect. This is the time to connect to yourself and to the divine, and how you give birth to yourself, because you are now recreating a new aspect of how you connect to the flow, the divine flow of who you are, the divine flow of abundance, the divine flow of the oneness, you see, where it's not coming from an outside person. It's not because you went to church. It's not because you went to school. It's not because someone else had an influence over you. So you're being pushed and propelled by spirit, the divine source creator, God, to start going within, to start remembering who you are and your true divinity and your true connection. You see, so there is always a higher purpose to all of this, and that's what's starting right now. So it says here, the end of winter can sometimes feel a little rocky. The energy shifting from an inward focus to outwardly focus can make you feel a little bit off kilter. Implementing changes requires, in order to grow and flourish, can really disrupt your sense of equilibrium in late winter. And how ironic that the disruption is actually happening the early beginning stages of spring, which actually started during the winter, because I know when everything started to do with that C virus, that actually started, I believe it was around, I think it was December was when it started. So it says here, but with the spring equinox, the earth returns to a place of perfect balance. Day and night are equal, the light and the dark, bringing the return of some much needed balance in your life. See? Overall, spring is a joyful time. Everything is coming alive. Nature is waking up and being reborn. The same thing is happening within you. Your spirit is coming alive with hopeful, excited energy. Parts of you are being reborn and coming alive in ways they never have before. Spring represents a new day. It's dawn in the wheel of the year. A new sun is rising. Life is waking up in the warm sunlight, and your spirit feels ready to make a fresh start. This time of year, your spirit is bringing and coming alive with new ideas. Hopefully you're feeling inspired and excited to try new things. Your work this season is determine which of your winter dreams you want to focus on. Now, another thing I'm going to read is just little snippets, I would say, of what, I found this on Google. What does the spring equinox mean spiritually? What does the equinox signify? How does the spring equinox affect us? Why is the spring equinox important? How does season affect our daily life? Why is it called equinox? And then I'm also going to talk a little briefly about what it means for twin souls as well. So In general, the equinox is seen as a time of struggle between light and darkness, life and death. Because you see, a lot of people right now are facing death. Some will be able to get through the C virus. Some may not. Some are choosing from a soul level to leave off of this planet and continue with their ascension and awakening process outside of the physical body. There are some who are choosing to show themselves as how powerful they are, even by having that C virus, and they may come out and will come out as being even stronger than ever before. It's a testing of themselves and their own strength and their own inner guidance. You see? So therefore, the spring equinox represents new light and life, new beginnings, seeds and path. The fact that day and night are equal on the day of the equinox, represents our own need for balance at this time. So how interesting and ironic again that I had the dream on March 11th, 2020. And whatever I just read a while ago was written on March 11, 2018. And I said when I was recording the dream, I wasn't thinking in my mind when I was recording the dream, ooh, this has to do with the equinox. Ooh, this has to do with the spring. And ooh, I'm going to be putting it out there in the public for the public to hear. No, I'm just recording. So I knew from everything that I put together with the pieces, I'm listening and I'm hearing spirit talking to me. I'm hearing them telling me, what is going to happen here. And the mere fact that I mentioned about feeling equal and balanced between myself and my divine masculine. So the next thing I'm going to read is, what does the equinox signify? The vernal equinox marks the beginning of spring. Equinox comes from the Latin words equi, which means equal, and nox, which means night. The vernal equinox is considered the first day of spring. Finally, the day and night are of equal length. How does the spring equinox affect us? During the vernal equinox, we tend to be energetic, spirited, and jubilant, as opposed to the autumnal equinox, when we are more likely to feel a bit somber as we wind down and prepare for the darker months. In either case, there's a focus on transition. There is some type of transition, and that's just the way it is. This is the cycles of life. This is the cycles of our soul, ascension, timelines. Everything that we have accumulated throughout centuries is finally coming to that place. They call it the mark. There's a mark and a time during a course of a particular century of which we were going to say, okay, it's the end of the line now. It's the end of all the data and stuff that we accumulated to get to know ourselves, to understand what it's like to experience the dark side. And now we're merging all those experiences. We're merging it with our soul self and saying, oh, I see myself as far as what I've created here, what I've chosen to experience with myself, as also with my twin soul, if that's the path that you're on, and what reflects back to your twin, and when you switch places with each other. And now that you've gathered, now you're working way back to remembering what is the truth, and remembering your path, and remembering who you are connecting to yourselves from a soul level, you see. And therefore you allow yourself to lighten up here, lighten up the energy, lighten up yourself, light up your soul's light, your path, light the way, as you still remember where your trail blazing here, because we're beginning a new timeline. New sequential codes are passing and processing through us on a multi-level, multi-layered, multi-dimensional level. And they're coming in so rapidly that it's almost like you're connecting dots from so many different levels, and you can't even keep up and catch up with it. So it's just to allow yourself and remember that you're beyond your human self, but you're still human, but you're also divine at the same time. You can do it, we can do it, but you're doing it within yourself. You're having to remember your power, your inner truth, you see, because it is you that is paving the way to do with who you are, of remembering yourself and being empowered. See, no one else can do it for you. You are the one that is doing it for you and your family line, your genealogy and everything, because that's the new template that's being like setting and paving the way for the next generation of what comes in and what comes through. So anyway, the next thing I'm going to read is As far as for those who are heading into the autumnal equinox, is when you're likely to feel a little bit more somber as you wind down and prepare for the darker months. In either case, there's a focus on transition and its effect on nature and us as human beings. Why is the spring equinox important? There are two equinoxes a year, the autumn equinox and the spring equinox, and they are marking the change in seasons. According to space, though, the vernal equinox is even bigger than that. It's the most important astronomical event of the year. That's because it marks the beginning of the astronomical year. So in other words, we are actually going to be celebrating the astronomical new year coming this weekend. And it's significant because that's like that reset. That's that actual beginning. Like, oh, it's finally here. Because again, we are bringing together the light and the dark. We're understanding both sides of the spectrum and all the spectrums of yourself. Such beautiful colors that we are. Where we started from the void, where we started from the darkness, where we started from the black hole, where we started from the void, where we started from Atlantis and Lemuria, and I believe it's Avalon. Okay, where we started from ourselves in the Palladians and the planet Sirius and Orion. Okay, and many, many, many other scores of planets that we have emanated from, different timelines, different places that we visited and revisited, and pieces that we're putting together to how we're kind of like experimenting to see what results we get from different, parts of ourselves that we are choosing as we place that outline, like movies, the characters and places and location. That's who we are. That's what we've done, And so why or how does the season affect our daily life? It says the seasons affect many parts of daily life. Climate, weather, change of the seasons affect much of what we do each day. The change of seasons allows for many different types of work, food, celebrations, and recreation. Plants and animals also change their ways with the season. So, of course, they say with every season, there's a reason. And changes that come, of course, is necessary as we go through a rebirth cycle, just like the caterpillar that changes to the butterfly, that goes back to the caterpillar and comes back to the butterfly. Then we have the life and the death and the rebirth, the incarnation cycle. All of these things are going to start wrapping up as we move more and more as the years go by. Both worlds are going to merge together. It's like we're not going to be separated from our loved ones that are on the other side. You're going to be able to see them. So all of this is what's happening, where some of you might already be seeing your loved ones, because both worlds are merging together, the spiritual realm and the physical realm, the physical matter and the spiritual matter. Your soul, your higher self, is merging with your physical body. Your body is also going through a transformation. It is going up many levels in many dimensional spaces as well. And it is also having to adapt, from the crystalline structure, the light body, to the physical density of the body, as the density of the body will start to lighten up as it merges, and it also relates to itself in what the truth is. But in the meantime, at the bat station, you're releasing all of the older versions of the self that descended in consciousness and became in the physical flesh. You see, so as you're ascending in consciousness, your light body starts to become more activated. And as you become more activated, you're also in tune to the other galactic parts of yourself. And as you embody that, you become more empowered. You see, and so that's where you expand in consciousness, you expand in truth, you expand in love, you expand it with the light. Okay. Which is where you attain the knowledge. But first you must be open to this, you see, because the more you're open to it, the more you receive, the more you allow yourself to remember how you connect to the feminine energies, the feminine principle, see, and giving birth to yourself with all of this and these new beginnings. So the last thing that I'm going to read is, why is it called equinox? On the equinox, night and day are nearly exactly the same length, 12 hours. Isn't that amazing? Everything is 12 and 12 and 12 and 12. And I didn't even know that's the first time I'm reading this part here. So it says the reason why it's called an equinox is derived from Latin, meaning equal night. However, even if this is widely accepted, it isn't entirely true, is what they say. So it means equal night. It means that you're balancing, again, it's a balance of night and day. It's a balance of who you are and who you're not, a balance of divine feminine and divine masculine. So either way, there's something that is continuously coming into balance for you, and what again it means for you in terms of changes and what you are releasing from the old patterns, behaviors, routines, structures, everything that's tied to your daily life is what's changing. The way how families would come together would mostly be on Sundays. Now it may be changed where you're with your family almost every day and getting used to interacting with one another and looking at each other in the face, and that you're not just programmed and tired into work and not being able to have an intimate moment with one another, you see. And for those who are on the twin soul path, I'm going to get into that now as well. Let's think of this as how we are here dynamically, not only to raise the consciousness of the planet, but we're here to be in love. We're here to be able to experience this love without having interruptions, you see. And that everything that we have felt that has gone against us, that has been created in terms of blocks and hindrances, separation cycles, feeling left out, feeling abandoned, feeling in fear of the connection, or feeling as if the connection cannot come into a harmonious space. This is what you're working through as far as your inner balance that will show up in as far as externally eventually. So I do know that there's some, and I'm aware that there's some who may be just awakening to this path. There may be some who are intermediary, where you've been on your path for maybe a year or two, and you might be at a plateau and saying, well, I feel like I've done this, I've done that. So it's not necessarily based on having a checklist. It's a matter of staying focused on where you are with your path so far, and see how much closer you feel within yourself as far as that inner harmony. Okay? And do know that we're at a time of magic. We're at a time of change. And that the magic is returning. The energy that flows through with Tesla, the free energy, is what has opened the door for many divine reunions to take place. This year, 2020 itself represents balance. It represents both aspects, twos and twos. And as it comes together in fours and the quadrants, you see how you're balancing your own inner divine mass and divine feminine, how you're also merging yourself with spirit, that you're not in fear, that you understand yourself on all sides, see, and that you're allowing yourself to come to a greater peace with all of this, you see, that you have all authority to tap into this wisdom and who you are in relation to Prime Source Creator. Okay, it is your divine right that you don't need a middleman, you don't need a middle person with this, that you have all right to be empowered. Okay, and sometimes for you to get to that place of being empowered, it means you have to face those fears and the darkness that is within you. There is no running away from this. I use that reference again to the movie What Dreams May Come, where Robin Williams came through to me about 2 years ago, and he reminded me of that movie and how of course it's so ironic that he did transition based on him taking his own life, but the mere fact that he represented that character that chose to go down into the darkness to find his beloved. And he was warned that if he went there, he may not be able to find himself back out of there. So this is what happens when you fall into the sea of forgetfulness, when you incarnate, that we go down so deep in here. Sometimes we forget that most of the time, there are many, many people who have forgotten who they are, which that was put on purpose by the divine for us to forget ourselves, so you can remember yourself while you're in the physical body, that no matter how many things have been set in place through this matrix or the illusions, that you find yourself and love brings you back home, you see, and that's the key. And so Robin Williams, the character he played in What Dreams May Come, is that he went down into the deepest, darkest depths of himself to find his beloved, and he never knew how he was going to get through to her remembering him, but all he knew was that in his heart he was going to stay with her and join her. And because he decided to join her, that's how she recognized him, that's how she remembered him, you see. So in the midst and the times of the darkness, it's a matter of not running from it. And sometimes it means you may have to join it by sitting with it, sitting with yourself. And sitting with yourself means that you go into separation. You may not have anyone with you to figure this out. And it is yourself that moves through that healing process, and allow yourself to go through it. Surrender to it. Surrender to your higher self. Surrender to the divine, and you set yourself free. So I will end at this point, and right after this, you will be able to listen to the dream that I have, which I am very honored to share with you. And I'm in gratitude that it lights the way for each and every one of you. Or even if there's something you may not understand from what I've spoken or whatever I'm saying in the dream, please feel free to reach out to me if you would like further clarity. And I know that no matter what, everything will always make sense for you at the right time and the right moment. And so it is. And I love you. Namaste. Today is March 10th, 2020. It's 2:15 a.m. in the morning. I woke up at 2:12 a.m. I had one of the most longest dreams in a long time. And it involved my Aunt Patsy, who's on the other side, and Tanisha, and it's like I was, and Rondi as well. It's like I dreamt I was in Patsy's house, like I was living there, and this is on Noble Avenue, which is where when my grandmother had owned that house. It's just so weird, all of this. And I dreamt that I went to see Tanisha, or I was just living there. I didn't see Tanisha. And I was laying down, and it's like I was dealing with the tenants or something to do with the light and gas or something. I don't remember. And I was waiting for Patsy to come back to talk to her and to tell her what was going on. And I did. And I can't remember the rest of how it led to the next thing. But anyway, I ended up meeting Rondi in a car that came to pick me up. And the only thing, the most important thing that I was remembering was that we were having such a long conversation and dialogue. And before I went to sleep, I said, I want to know what's going on. I said, I wish I could know what was going on with Rondi, because I haven't had a dream to do with him in such a long time. And lo and behold, I had the dream. So it's like, when we really want to communicate with our twins, it's just like a breath away. And he actually admitted to me why he was distant from me. And we were talking about everything from when we connected and everything to present time. And the more we kept talking, the more all the misunderstandings started to just melt away. And one of the things he said to me in the dream, because I was driving in like a taxi cab. It wasn't a taxi cab. It was one of his family members or friends. It was someone that I knew that I hadn't seen in a long time. And I told him how I was in Jamaica about a week ago, and I thought about him. And he was telling me he was having a rough time with things in his life. And I told him, I told him that eventually the energy starts to dissipate and you start to become wholesome within yourself. And it's like when I said that and Rondi heard me, I could feel a relief come over him. And so he was telling me that Colin was not around. And he was telling me how he was upset about me and Colin being together. And so he started talking about that. And then as we were
Ooh, I'm getting goosebumps because I really feel even right now as I speak, I feel like as if Randy is dreaming about me too. I feel that he's having communication from myself, that we were in the same astral plane having this conversation. I really, really feel it so strongly. And so as I'm talking to the guy, he's a dark skinned guy. So it's like as if he was a friend of the family or somebody that I know. And Randy's just listening and listening to me intently. Um, and I'm saying, and I was very calm. Both of us were very calm. We weren't feeling triggered at all by each other. We weren't. And it's like we were driving. It was a good way to go back home. I can't even remember where we were. I was coming from, and it's almost like being at Noble Avenue just cleared something within me. I don't know if there was blocks that were there or something that's connected to my grandmother and my Aunt Patsy. But anyway, she definitely was in the dream until I ended up seeing Rondi. And it's like I feel like she's assisting me in her own way. And so when Rondi and I were talking, and he was telling me about how he felt about Colin. I told him that one of the reasons why Colin had to, it was almost like there was something tied to money and this bill. And this guy, this Rasta guy that was living there with another person. I can't remember. And I said to him, I said, oh, the reason why I had to give Colin the bill because he had to take responsibility for this bill or something. And he wasn't understanding and listening to me. So Rondi also said that he told Colin something that he should have done, but he didn't listen either. So there's something linking me and Rondi to Colin and something that he didn't listen. And it's like as if something's happening because I really feel like Colin is away somewhere. I kind of feel like he's in Guyana. I feel like he's in Guyana. I feel like there must be something linking to myself and Rondi to him not listening to something either. I gave Colin the same advice before, and his brother did too, and he didn't listen. So there's something that he's facing, or or something emotionally, or something. So when I said what I said to Rondi, he was like, "Wow, I told Colin the same thing." So the car stopped, and he then looked at me because I think he wanted to come. He wanted to check something in my phone or check something, and I had to come out the car and show. Like we came out the car stopped, and he said to me, "Oh, you still have the same phone number, I know." And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And he noticed that I had a different type of phone, and he was just watching me, watching everything I was doing, and it's like he wanted to restart again, with me. I could feel it coming from him, but he wasn't saying the words. And so whatever I was, trying to give him to the phone, so I went back into the car, and he came back into the car with me. So it's like we came out. It's like we both came out the car to just have a little type of private conversation. And so we went back into the car, and then when we were driving to go for the guy to take me back home, in my mind and my consciousness, I was coming back to Rockland County. And as we were coming back to Rockland County, Rondi still kept talking to me. We kept talking with each other. And he was listening to me when I was trying to tell the guy that I was in Jamaica. And then when I told the guy that I thought about him, the guy himself. And I said to him that, when we go through the hard times and the difficulties, that we really master ourselves. That's what I said in the dream. We master ourselves, so we come back to 0 point. And when I said it out loud that Rondi resonated with it so much. And it was like layers peeled back from him. And he had such a different understanding of me. That's what it felt like. Like he has a completely different understanding of me because of the negative things or what he thought was negative that I was going through. It's like he was putting the pieces together. That's how it felt. And it's like anything that was misunderstood or anything that wasn't in alignment, it started to come into alignment because of the view. He had a different view. It's like he had a different view and perception of me. And now it's like his view is changed. He has a greater picture because he heard when I was talking to the guy. So I kind of feel like, because it's not like as if we're having a physical conversation, but I feel like he must have watched one of my latest videos. I have a feeling that he kind of knows that I'm off the radar because I haven't posted anything on social media. I haven't communicated with anybody, no one at all. No one that's outside of my immediate family. I'm not having any conversations. I'm just being pulled back by my soul, and I'm realizing how that has made such a difference for me in being in my own space. And so the highlight of this dream now is the fact that the guy dropped me back off, even though I wasn't in Rockland, but I was like as if I was back at Noble Avenue or something. And Rondi didn't come out of the car with me. I think I went in to do something or something. I don't remember. And so he told the guy he told the guy, I'm going to drop you off. Oh, you know what? I wasn't home yet. No, I stopped, I think, back at Patsy's house. And he told the guy that he, apparently they must have been getting into an argument because he wants to drop the guy off so he can take me back on his own. And the guy was kind of arguing with him. And Rondi insisted he's going to drop him off home and take the car and come back. And no, he's going to drop off the guy. Then that way he wanted to be with me alone. That's it. He wanted to be with me alone, and he didn't want to have any other persons in the car with me. He just wanted it to be me and him. And that's what I dreamt. So it's like as if, and this is interesting because it was like the people in the car were people that knew him, that people that he connects to. So I almost feel like because I'm doing the same thing, that anybody that I've been connecting to month after month and for such a while, anyone that I've been communicating is like that, I've just freed up the energy, and he's doing the same thing. He's doing the same thing, and I do feel that that he wants to be with me. He wants to be with me. I feel like he's more prepared to be with me, and he's ready to be with me because I was ready to be with myself. I was ready to be with myself and just have that time for myself. And I've been resting. Even when I was on the phone communicating with someone, just returning a phone call, and it's like I felt like as if everybody else's energy, doesn't matter who it is, it's like I've been spiritually sensitive to where their vibration is. And I had to understand that all these people, no matter who they are, no matter who I love, their vibration is not where I'm at. And I'm not responsible for where they are in their vibration. That I am at the highest vibration that I could ever be. And it goes higher and higher. And each time that I am conversating constantly with anyone who's not at my vibration, it pulls me down. They're not understanding to the full extent. It's not their fault. They're just not connecting to that same level and frequency where I am. And so for me to come into my physical reunion with Rondi, I have to release all those people. I have to. I can't have conversations every single day, or like the way I was before. I had to change that. And I was starting to get sick. It's like my body's responding to what I'm taking into my solar plexus. And so it's breaking itself down. And this is how Rondi's communicating to me. He's ready to be with me. I had to just let all that go, and he understands us better. He understands who we are together, and as much as I understand who we are together. And this is what I dreamt on March 10th, 2020. And I also wanted to add this to the dream, not necessarily what was in the dream, but I'm hearing March 21st significantly. I'm choosing to record that date. It's like something just feels like, because last year, right before the winter solstice, when I realized that Rondi unblocked me, which is right around the solstice, and now we're at the equinox. It's like this is like another conjunction of something shifting between us. And the mere fact that the phone had rang just before I went to sleep, or while I was sleeping, and it was Charlize's school, and they announced that they're not going to allow them to go back to school until March 21st, perhaps because of the coronavirus. How ironic. And it's almost like we're being secluded from one another. The virus itself that's going around, it's like the plagues of Egypt, is what it reminds me of. And these feelings of isolation is also allowing us to reflect a lot. A lot of reflection is going on, and Mercury just went out of retrograde literally yesterday, and it is the full moon. So I'm really feeling that's another reason why things are shifting and shifted, with Rondi having a different understanding of me and who he is, or the divine feminine energy. And I feel that he knows too and understands very, very much on a high level what the connection had been between Colin and I, and everything to how he felt in past lives, so I feel like he has been going through a lot of his own past life review as well with things. And I also feel like he's been thinking a lot about the past when he and I met, and that he has a different understanding of our connection and why he sought me out. And I feel that it's like, I feel like we're melding. How could I describe this? It's like the way how I felt in the dream. We were sitting next to each other in the back of the car, and it was like we were in power and equals, and it was evenly divided with how we spoke with each other. It wasn't like one was more in energy than the other. So it felt evened out. It's the best way I can describe it. Because even when when we were talking or asking questions with each other, it's like we already knew what the answer was going to be. Like there was just a complete understanding of everything, sometimes even without saying words. And even the dream also signified that when he and I do connect in the physical realm, that he's not going to want to be separated from me. And because he was very insistent in the dream that he wants to spend time with me and me alone. Me and me alone. He didn't want to have anyone in the mix with us. And that's what I'm getting. So I'm really feeling that it's significant during this time, as Mercury just started to move direct, and also It feels significant with the spring equinox coming up on March 21st. And I just have a feeling that that date, around that date, is quite significant to what comes next um, for the both of us, and that's what I'm hearing. And what are the chances? I'm back again. What are the chances that Tavan has a dream that's related to Rondi? There are no coincidences. There are no coincidences whatsoever. What are the chances? What are the chances? This is absolutely incredible. And it confirms that energetically that something is happening as far as, I would say, it is on a grand scale, microcosmic and macrocosmic scale, because the representation of myself as the original Black divine feminine, you're Black. And it's like a full integration of light and dark, a full integration of divine feminine and divine masculine is what I'm hearing. And the way that Tavan describes it as, it's like chaos, when I think of these viruses, the plagues of Egypt, everything is just like so chaotic, and it's like history. His story is repeating itself in the way that we purify the generational line to go back to the beginning, is that we have to go through these reviews and repeat the stories so that way we can cleanse through each timeline, come back to self. The body has to be at rest. The body is going to create the diseases, the illnesses, everything to come back to itself. It's all a part of the process. So there's no coincidence as I loop my dream and the revelation that has been shown to me, and then for Tavan to receive this revelation, because he was with me during that course of time in humanity's stages of creation. And this is of the physical human creation. I had to remember myself in my own power with no attachments to anyone else's stories. I had to release myself and push through all the timelines and all the experiences of the past. I had to move through this energy in my divine feminine and masculine power, because we were all females first, and then we recreated ourselves to develop and recreate the males from within our bodies. Petekoto pita pataka potoko peta pakata kote peta pete peketo peta peke pekoto peta peke keto kopeta pata pakoto de beke pepe keto poko pepe ke pepe keto kopete de keto pepe kete peketo kopete peke toko pete pakata pakato kote pekata pakata kote peta pakati imita kita pakoto kote pakata kote peta pepe te kote peta keto kote peta kata pakote pe So I'm back again. This is an addendum. I actually recorded the dream on March 10th, but it was actually March 11th because the dream occurred after 12 a.m. So I'm recording this over to correct the date of the dream into what it represents. And I also wanted to add something to do with the spring equinox, because I kept hearing March 21st, which is significance to do with the spring equinox, and how ironic that I was guided by Rondi's higher self to go back to a voice note that I sent to him on November 3rd, 2017. And the voice note is exactly 11 minutes and 11 seconds. And it does indicate from that voice note, it's definitely a sign, a message that I was supposed to go back and refer to, even though I knew Rondi wouldn't have heard it. He would not have heard it because he unblocked me after the fact that it was sent. So it was meant for me to see it there and go back and re-listen to it, because it is also confirmation to what I recorded to do with this dream. So when I looked up what does the spring equinox mean spiritually, it is seen as the time of struggle between light and darkness, life and death. The spring equinox represents new light and life, new beginnings, seeds, and path. The fact that day and night are equal. So it's like the day and night are equal during that time. And they're equal on the day of the equinox, which represents our own need for balance at this time. So definitely because see, it says here, it says equinox comes from the Latin words aequi, which means equal, and nox, which means night. The vernal equinox is considered the first day of spring. Finally, the day and night are of equal length. That's how I felt in the dream with Rondi and I when I was sitting in the car, in the back of the car. I felt like our energies were balanced with each other. It didn't feel like I had any conflict within myself. I didn't feel any triggers. I didn't feel any resistance coming from him that I would have felt. I didn't feel like as if I was overtaking him, and I didn't feel like he was trying to overtake me like when I first met him. I didn't feel like as if we were coming together like the Titans, as one would describe. It felt like as if he was taking his rightful place on within his own right with who he is as the king, and that I'm his queen. It felt like as if he knew that everyone else had to be out of the way because it was time for him to come back into my life. And so I had to free up that space for him to feel it. And so I felt like as if energetically that we were in the higher planes, like communicating with each other. I really feel like we were communicating with each other. It was beyond a dream. Like our souls were actually just connecting to one another to speak and to commune and to collaborate. Like I've always felt like that's what we were always doing, just collaborating with each other. And how interesting, because the house number where my grandmother, that was her first house that she bought when we came to this country. And I was just a baby. I was just 2 years young. And that house number was 1351. And I remember the house that she had before that was 1315. And then she bought the house down the block, 1351. And my Aunt Patsy used to live at 1315. But then she moved to 1351 after my grandmother bought another house on St. Lawrence Avenue in the Bronx where I grew up. So it's like that was like a mirror number. So that is very significant to me in and of itself when I dive deeper into this dream. So I really feel like this spring equinox is totally an effect of what comes or what is. I feel like it's already happening, because it's just like when I found out about Rondi unblocking me, it was around just before mid-December, and the winter solstice was towards the 21st. It was on December 21st. So whatever was mirroring between us, it was already happening before the actual date. So I feel like that this is happening before the actual date itself of March 21st. So I guess it will make a lot of sense why I had this dream on March 11th, 2020. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, It really is March 10th. I'm looking at the wrong month. Oh my gosh, why is this happening? So the dream is actually March 10th. Oh, my mistake. So it is March 10th. I don't know why I'm thinking it was March 11th, because I was looking at February's calendar date. Oh my goodness. So anyway, it's all good. It's all well. So when I think of the numbers, March 10, 2020, that's 10 and 3, that's 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, that narrows down to an 8. And then the address of the homes where I was taken to that home is 1351 Noble Avenue. So I feel like whatever energy that had been carried to that house to do with my aunt, my grandmother, my father's side of family, we had to go back to that place because that's where Ronnie met me. So whatever is in the past to do with the lineage and the link to my grandmother, my grandmother's energy, and my Aunt Patsy, they're all on the other side. It is interesting because that's what sort of created the doorway to open. Besides the fact that I said, "What's going on?" Before I went to sleep, I said, "What's going on with you, Ronnie? What's going on?" And obviously, he felt me and heard me and came to me and showed me this through the dream state. So this is quite interesting. So I found something else that says house spring equinox will affect soulmates and twin flames. Even though this was back in 2015, ironically, that was around the time when I was still communicating with him. So it's sort of like a celebration of light, more daylight where we're located. And I really feel like it's just more of that balance of night and day, the balance of light and dark. And I feel like it's more applying the balance of how Ronnie and I understand each other, and the acceptance of self, acceptance of who I am, who I have been, who I still am from the beginning of time, and how I accept him with who he is, how he accepts himself, and how he accepts me, how we accept each other. So it just feels so, it feels very centered. That's how it all feels for me, like very centered between the two of us without any physical contact whatsoever. And that's what I'm sensing right now between us. And so it is.
I had a dream today, and in the dream I was by the sea, and the sea was green, and the waves were big, and the water was flowing. And the dream was really about me, my twin, and the masculine energy that's healing and shifting around me. But I heard Spirit say in the dream that the fullness of the water was a representation of Poseidon, which was a representation of Rondi. And I'm just waking up out of the dream. Spirit told me to give you that message. So he was in a dream as a sea, communicating to me in his fullness. It was like a storm coming on the planet, and he was at bay though. It was I could see the fire and the ferocity in the storm, but he was at bay, and he's moving into a fuller embodiment of who he is. He's moving into a fuller embodiment of what he's here to do. It's becoming so potent, and his frequency is it's work. He's embodying it now. So there's less of rage and more the fullness that Spirit is moving him into. So I just wanted to share that with you, because they said I was guided in the dream to make sure I told you that.
So Mo, this is very interesting. I had an interesting observation, not based on seeing, but listening. I'm still listening to this video that Mike the Peace Dealer channel
put out with this lady talking about the transits and Jupiter and Scorpio. And from what I gathered, gathering, I should say, is that the soul desires to experience itself on the light side and the dark side. And that's why it is important not to judge the desire of the soul to what we choose to experience. Because when you had tagged Saul, I think it was around Halloween, whatever, and I went on his page and I saw all this dark stuff, and oh my God, when I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, and it was very macabre type of things that he was posting, and I was like, oh my goodness. So anyway, I realized, and I said, wow, he's you in the masculine, experiencing another aspect of you in what he desires to see and experience. And so, but it doesn't mean that the masculine chooses to experience dark only. It's just that they represent that polarity that experiences it to the extreme. And then the feminine aspect, she will experience things to the extreme on the aspect of herself on her dark side as well. It may not be as extreme as the masculine does. Not to say there's anything to measure with it, but that's what I'm kind of gathering. So when I'm looking at it from the twin perspective first, and so then when I think about Rondi and the fact that I feel he's the one that's going through his own dark night of the soul based on what Mike said, and Colin is as well, because they both represent the masculine to me, and they both take it to an extreme polarity. So even if Colin is experiencing something painful, Rondi is going to feel it also, because it's almost like as if it's like we're triplets, I don't know how else to say it. It's like there's just something that goes into an extreme polarity when it comes to them experiencing as me. That's the best way I can put it. And so if there's anything that's hidden within the soul, that's where the twin comes in to bring it out. So because my light is shining so much brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter, that's why they're experiencing the extremity of darkness within themselves, meaning in the sense of whatever they're going through. I don't know what they're going through, but it could be an extreme depression or heartache, pain. It could be stuff happening with their family and there's pressure. It could be anything. Who knows what it is? Because since I'm not in communication, there's no way for me to know the exact science to it. But I would feel based on the dreams that a lot of it has to do with the religious thing. Plus, I also feel like sexual stuff was coming up too, because I had found myself looking at porno, and I'm like, why am I looking at porno? And I'm getting all engaged in it and everything. And then after a while, I was like, oh, this is awful. And then I realized, oh my God, I was probably acting out what they're doing or wanting to see. So in this world, and all the incarnations we've had, that means that we have chosen to experience both aspects of a particular subject matter. So if we choose to experience sex, and we wanted to experience it on the grandest scale of purity, but we also wanted to experience it in the worst aspect, on the opposite side, when it comes to the rapes, molestations, what happens to females during, how females are viewed when it comes to their sexuality, how males are viewed when it comes to their sexuality. So we chose to experience it to the extreme, and we still can't judge it, but just to understand it and to where it takes us on different sides of the scale and from different perspectives, different views, you know what I mean? And so because we're heading back to that place of where we're becoming one again, we're heading back to that place of purity. And that includes everything to do with relationships, marriages, our health,
whether we choose to be in that peacefulness or the chaos, you know, in every aspect. And so as we're heading back to that space of purity and oneness and unity, the soul is purging out and integrating. It's both purging and integrating and alchemizing. I would say alchemizing the opposite of what it experienced. So in other words, light and dark comes together. So that's why when Halloween came in, all the ugliness to a lot of things was coming out. Everything that's viewed and coming out, or whatever I was experiencing with my aunt, where they keep talking about the demons and, you know, saying Bahog. I mean, I still can't get over it, but then I understand. So they're holding on to that old patriarchal regimen to do it, you know, only wanting to stick to the Bible, you know, even though back in Egypt it was something else that they were wanting to worship, the separation of God. And I was more speaking on the monotheism in the oneness of God, that all is God, everything is God. And so that's why I realized that I'm receiving information and downloads from spirit with putting it together. Oh my God, I see the license plate Pharaoh. I've seen that license plate so many times and it's passing by now. Oh my God. You can't make this shit up. Oh my, it's the same vehicle. Oh my God, that's confirmation. That is confirmation. Can't make this up. Oh my God. So you see, back in Egypt, that's what it was when I was the Pharaoh, because I was the female Pharaoh. And so I really truly believe and know that Randy is waking up more and more to himself in knowing himself as the Pharaoh, knowing himself as the one that was with me, because even though I know in history they put that he was the one that did all the speaking and he was the one that you know, had the philosophy, but it was both of us. We were both together equally experiencing and bringing out the aspects of the soul in the body. And of course, we're so advanced, you know, we're so advanced in technology. We're advanced in things when it comes to creation and everything that we were bringing to the earth, but people just didn't understand it and they were in fear. And just to say, it's just almost a similar thing that's happening. It's like they're in fear of what they don't understand. And therefore, when they're in fear of it, they destroy and kill. You see, that's what they do. They destroy and kill. So when I think about it now, here we are again. We're incarnated again. And because he's awakening more to himself, to who he is, he's really connecting to me more and more now. I can feel it, you know. And so we're bringing on these light codes and bringing in the light and the dark together, integrating and merging it together. So that's why I feel like things are coming more into balance between the both of us, and shifting when it comes to how we relate to each other as masculine and feminine, males and females. And the more we're remembering who we were back then, as me as Nefertiti and him as Akhenaten, it's like he is acclimating that role, is what I'm feeling. And I feel that he's stepping out of that fear of what other people have to say, because back then people were attacking us and all kind of shit. And then of course I really feel like he was it's either between he was taken away and or murdered after a chapter, I don't know, or I feel he was taken away by God. And it happened to me, but it was not in the same location. It was two different locations, because I already had the memory and it was shown to me by spirit. So I know that eventually I'm going to want to do another regression, hypnosis regression, and doing it with him to see what more comes out. I know it might be a huge thing that happens, but you know what? I have a feeling that he's the type of person that he too just as much desires to have all the information, because we're the same. We're one and the same and different at the same time. And there's a part of him too that he gets curious. He desires to know, and I feel that's why it will feel like it's getting closer to him, communicating with me and collaborating on all the stuff that has happened and what we're bringing to the earth, you know. But this time we're going to recreate our love story and not being in fear of backlash or people interfering in our love life and, you know, giving 2 fucks or 3 fucks, no fucks at all of what people think. You know what I mean? So this is the revelation that I'm receiving right now. And I really feel that a lot of divine masculine, not a lot, but I feel that there's quite a few of them that are also on their stage of awakening. Because, you know, I kept saying in my video recordings, the more we know who you are, the more you choose to try to
Find out who you were in a past life. Bring yourself together. Bring yourself together in all aspects, and that includes your light and your dark side, both, not just one aspect. Because when you do that, what it does is that's what brings your pieces together and the fragmentation of your soul and coming into acceptance. And that's where the full acceptance is accepting who you are, accepting your twin for who your twin is, reflecting back to you because he's you and she's you. I could put it in whether in terms of a he or a she, because we reflect one another, you see. And if we feel like we don't want to look at the dark aspects of our soul and how it's presented in the physical aspect, then we just keep running away from one another, and we keep running away from love, and we keep running away from every parts of ourselves, So that's what I wanted to share, because I'm really feeling it very powerful right now. So yeah. All right, lovely. Have a beautiful day.
It is March 10th, 2020. I'm recording another dream, and it's 11:44 a.m. This time I dreamt I don't know where I was, like I was in a saloon. I had on my coat. I was getting ready to leave. And it was a whole lot of people. And Rondi came in and stood right in front of me. And he said, again, I want to talk to you. Ooh, I get goosebumps. He said, I want to talk to you. And I was like, okay. And he told me to put down the phone because he doesn't want me to record the conversation. And I was like, okay, what is it? I was like, can I give you a hug? And he was like, no, I'm not going to hug you in here. And I was like, okay, what is this about? And he was a bit nervous. Like, I kind of get this feeling he was nervous. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like I'm getting goosebumps. It's like he's showing me, another way how he's feeling about connecting to me. And I think he's nervous about what to do next, or he's nervous about how I'm going to respond or what's going to happen when, with reaching out to me. And in the midst of him saying that he had like a brother that was with him, it wasn't Colin, it was a different brother or someone who's like a brother to him. He looked like, Ronnie really looked kind of disheveled, because this time he was standing up. And he was standing up in front of me, and he had on his coat, and he was just watching me intensely. And so I said to him, I said, well, just spit it out. What is it? And he just was hesitating. So he said, I'll be right back. He went upstairs to a room that was in this, I don't know where this was. It looked like a saloon or, I don't know where this was. It was a lot of people in there. People were serving drinks, foods, everything. I even dreamt that Joe came with the kids. And then what was significant was that the guy who came with Rondi, this was he seemed kind of chubby little bit. He may have come across like Rondi's brother, so it may have been someone that Rondi treats like a brother, and he's a close friend. And he said to me that Rondi's going to talk to me because the guy's telling me that he's going through changes and Rondi is going through changes. And so it was time for us to have this talk, because he said the guy's telling me that he himself is going through drastic changes. So anyway, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. This is crazy. And I said, I got to go look for Tavon. I got to find Tavon. And I went into this room and I saw these two guys laying down in bed together. I thought one of them was Tavon. So I was like, is Tavon in here? And he's like, no. And then Tavon then came and met up with me.
maybe I was in Atlanta. And I said, oh my God, Tavon, you will believe this. I said, Randy actually showed up, found me. I don't know. I told him, I said, I don't know how the heck he found me, because it's not like I told him where I was going to be. And I said, you won't believe this. I said, he's here. He's here. And Tavon was like, what do you mean he's here? I was like, yes, he's here. He's in the place here. And I don't know how he found me. He's like, well, what did he say? I was like, I don't even know what he's saying, because it's like he's acting like he wants to say something to me, but he's not spitting it out. And I was so nervous. I didn't know what to expect, or if I was going to be disappointed or what. So anyway, I then went back. I hugged Tavon and I said, okay, I'm going to go back, because he's going to come down the stairs any minute and I don't want to miss him, not seeing me. So I went to the spot where I had my phone, and my phone was still there, because I took out the phone so he could visibly see the phone and not think that I'm trying to record him. So then as soon as I did that, I couldn't see if he came down already, if I missed him or not. So I stood there waiting and waiting and waiting. And then I ended up seeing someone else that knows me, and she came up to me and said, oh, I've been going through, it was a female, can't remember her name. And she's like, oh, I've been going through a rough time, and I've been going through, like, she's telling me she's going through changes also. And she's like, oh, I've been watching you and things that's been happening with you and Charlize, and I know that she's about to make it big and things are about to happen. That's what she's saying to me. And I'm there like, okay, that's nice, because I'm there looking for Randy now. Like, where is he? Where is he? And then I woke up out of the dream. So I can only feel that, because I went back to sleep again, hoping I can sleep without any phone waking me up. And I did hear the phone ring in the back, but I turned off the phone so I wouldn't have to hear it ringing. And then I dreamt Randy again. So it's like there's something that is reconnecting the both of us at the same time, because it's like as if Randy, it's like Randy was saying to me that he's aware. It's like he's aware of me knowing that he unblocked me. So he's aware. But it's like it's so difficult. It had been difficult for him to communicate to me with his mouth, with talking. Whew. And then when I had asked him to hug me, can I get a hug? The reason why he was afraid to hug me, because he was afraid of how he would respond to me, because of how powerful I was feeling. So something is, I just feel like something is just starting to unravel between us. Something is coming forward with us reconnecting to each other in the physical realm, because it to me, this all felt like something that's happening in the etheric realm. I mean, this place looked like it's not a house, but it's like God, it could be all of us that are healing individually. I just feel like it's all of us going through all our individual processes, and Randy's a part of it. I couldn't tell if Tavon's twin was there. Joe was there with the kids, and I even told the girl, I said, oh, go over there and go say hi to my grandkids. I said that to her. I said, so you could go and meet them. So there's something going on with Randy, wanting to talk to me, wanting to see me. And I don't know if he's trying to figure out how to do this, or he's just watching things in the outer world without having to make contact with me, because of feeling nervous of how I'm gonna respond. I don't know if it's like he's trying to figure it out, or he's trying to take his time, but I just get something about him, trying to find out something, or he wants to express himself to me. He wants to tell me something. And that's what I got just now. So I remember something else about the dream. When I looked at Randy, I asked him did you have a dream like I did? He said, yes, I had a dream. I just remembered this now. I said, did you have a dream as well? Because I dreamt about you earlier this morning. He told me, yes, he did. I feel like he's really communicating with me. But it's happening when I'm sleeping instead of when I'm awake, because right now I have such a headache. And then I looked at him and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I did too. And it's like I'm gonna just like tap into him, you know. So I feel like that the dream that he had to do with me, we were in the same place, like where we were in the cars. We were in the same place. I feel like he had a dream that is pointing or that's showing that we were in the same place. And and I feel like he is, because of the dream, the reason why he looks disheveled, because it's kind of shaking him up. It's making him like nervous, but then it's like he knows that he's to make this contact with me. That's what it feels like. He knows he's to make the contact with me, and that this is significant to do with the both of us. That's the only feeling that I'm getting. But like I said, the main thing that stood out was the fact that, because even when I walked in the place, it almost looks like a saloon, when you go into these places that they serve drinks. They have some tables, but then there was like an area where you can sleep, and you can sleep as well. And because I saw the guys that Taranya that were laying down, and one of them looked familiar to me, but I can't remember his name. And even Tavon looked younger in the dream. He looked a little bit younger, but not quite. Like he had his face shaved off. Like I didn't see any beard. But either way, I feel like when Rondi went to go upstairs too, he said he was gonna come back. It's almost like he wanted to think through his thoughts first and then come back downstairs to me, because it was just so unnerving for him. Oh God, it's like my whole body's getting chills. It's like it's almost like I feel like he's hearing me right now. Like he is aware of the dream, and he's aware that I also had a dream, and I feel like he's aware of something happening with us at the same time. That's how this all feels to me. You know, because I've never, ever, ever had back-to-back dreams. Oh, I just saw 12 minutes and 12 seconds on this recording. So this is what I remember. So this is a confirmation. He also had a dream. He also had the dream just like what I recorded in the first dream. He also had a dream. And I feel like his friend, brother, whoever he is a light-skinned guy. Oh, I don't know if it's his brother. It doesn't look like one of the brothers, but this is someone he's talking to. And it could be the same friend but this friend doesn't look the same like the one that I saw in the first dream. This looks like someone different. This one feels closer, like a brother. He's a light-skinned person. The person in the first dream was a dark-skinned guy that was driving that car. This time around, this is a light-skinned guy. He's getting goosebumps. My whole body's having chills. It's like I'm getting confirmation. And the guy is like a friend to Ronnie. He's like a friend, but a brother, or is like a brother, or he's a brother who's like a friend. And the brother is the one that kind of had to speak up for him a little bit, just to give me a preview of what is happening. And that's when he said, well, I'm having changes happening in my life, and so is Rondi. So I don't know if maybe something's happening in their family. Maybe that's it, and it's bringing changes to Rondi, or there's just something happening through Rondi right now, and it's affecting him having to want to talk to me. And then the dream, it could be something happening in his physical world that's coinciding with the dream and him reaching out to me, because I just keep seeing images of him looking at the phone. Like I see him looking at the phone. I see him looking to see when I'm online. And, of course, he doesn't know where I live. But then it's like there's this feeling of him wanting to see me, wanting to talk to me. So I don't know. That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting right now from this dream. And I just saw 1441. And I just feel like he just has me deeply in his thoughts more than ever. So I listened back to this dream, and I was also hearing coming from Spirit that how interesting the first dream, that when I was with Rondi in the vehicles represent transportation. Being in a vehicle also represents movement. The vehicle is in movement, it's in motion, moving ahead. And when I recorded this voice note to Tavan, I saw it was 1, 2, 3. It was 1, 2, 3 at 1 minute and 23 seconds. So that represents when something is in progression, moving forward. So that's no coincidence. So what's interesting is that Spirit said, well, did you notice when I mentioned that the guy in the car, that Rondi's friend in the car, was a dark-skinned guy, and he was slender. And that guy was like, kind of like, I wouldn't say a block, but sort of. And that guy didn't want to give up the car to Rondi, but Rondi was insistent that he was going to take over the vehicle. He was insistent that he was going to take over the vehicle, and that he was going to take the vehicle to drop him off. So that way he wanted to be alone with me in the car. And that was the dark-skinned guy. So it was like as if Rondi took back his power. He took back his power in a way to how he took his rightful place by speaking up, because I talk so much about the divine masculine speaking up and being in their full power just as much as the divine feminine. And he did not allow the guy to do whatever he wanted to, to take the vehicle and drop me off last. And I kind of feel like part of it also represents Rondi not wanting to leave me alone with other guys as well, and other guys that have come in the midst of our connection, and then also on top of that, because he is still taking in his, like, this authority, and it wasn't in a forceful way, but he's taking in his authority into saying, hey, I am taking the vehicle because I want to spend time with her. It's like he was making that conscious choice of wanting to spend time with me, and he wasn't going to let anything or anyone stop him. See? So that's how it felt. So the next dream now that I had in the afternoon around 11:44, that takes me now to another location. But this time, first it was where it was not as much people. This time there's a lot more people. And in this location where there's a lot more people, the guy who was with him that was like a brother to him, he was a light-skinned guy. He was much lighter, very much lighter in complexion. So that kind of makes me feel like Rondi is processing his, how he's communicating with me, how he feels about me, his own anticipation to do with me and what to decide and to do next. And part is like, when you have a little bit of fear, it's not a lot of fear, it's a little bit of fear. And then there's also strength. So, through each and everything that we do, there's always the strengths and the weaknesses. So, but the fact is that he wasn't doing it alone. He decided to take the steps to connect with me. He decided and he chose to take the step to connect with me, even though there were a lot of people, because I know he's the type of person that doesn't like to be around a lot of people. He reminds me of David, my son, and they're both Cancer. So it's like he made a choice to come there. Oh, gosh. He made a choice to come to the place knowing where I was going to be around all these people to express to me that he wants to talk to me. And so, however he's receiving information and data, he's processing it through the part of himself that sees things in the light. And also when you see things in the dark, which I talk a lot about that in the book, that we go when we go through the ascension and descension, we ascend and we descend. So we ascend in the light, towards the light, meaning that we have information, we have clarity, we apply wisdom, because he is understanding and connecting to me through the friend that's dark, right? Friend that's dark, that represents the dark, which doesn't mean that it's evil. It's just sometimes it's more like when you see things in the dark is where you're not aware, you don't know what's going on, you're kind of like ignorant in a way and closed off, right? Closed-minded. And so because the friend had intentions of wanting to be the one to take me back home, and Rondi realized and said, no, I want to take her back and for her to be with me, because he knew that he was the one. So in other words, he was making the choice to step up to the plate. So, and the reason why the way things happened the way it did according to the dream is because he was in a dark place, right? Meaning the person representing the darkness. So he had to be in a place where something was not feeling good inside, feeling low in vibration, sort of, because he was still in his power in the dream, because things were balanced between us. Because when we come back into these reunion stages, we're doing it in both the light and the dark. It's not where, I'm understanding and I'm really coming into my power by being in the light. You come into your power being in the dark and the light, in both places, not just one place. And so what I'm understanding then now is that he's also seeing himself and also reclaiming his power with me, with the light skinned guy being in the light as well, which is being around people. So it's like we're both going through a dichotomy of ourselves, him and I together. So in other words, when you come back into wholesomeness, you go through both aspects of yourself. You go through the light and the dark. You go through the contrast of yourself. You see things from two different perspectives. So he's seeing things from the light side and also the not so light side, and through the heaviness as well, or whatever's hidden from him. Because I said in the first dream that certain things, it felt like he was understanding me better. He was connecting to me from a place of wisdom, knowing I am his queen. So it's like you get clarity a lot when you're in the dark as well, when you're in an introspective place, and you're alone and you don't have anyone around you and you don't have anybody bothering you. And, so, and then there's times when we convene and we get to see things in another light when we connect to one another. And that comes through from the collective consciousness. So sometimes you will see something by yourself, and then sometimes you will see things when you're together around others and you get a different type of clarity. So it doesn't mean that one way is better than the other. This is just how the soul chooses to understand itself, and how we come back to the wholesomeness of ourselves is being alone and also together. So in other words, you balance out a time when you're together and you balance out a time when you're alone, and still understanding and putting the pieces together while you are separate, but still knowing that you're connected to the person or people or the collective consciousness. And this is what I'm feeling into the contrast
and the similarity and the messages coming through from both dreams together in an hour in a space of 2:12 a.m. was the first dream, and then the second dream, well, actually the first dream ended at 2:12 a.m. When I woke up, I looked at the clock, it was 2:12 a.m., so that's 212 code. And then this dream, I woke up at 11:44 p.m., so that's the code of 1144. And that's the message that I'm getting. And so it is. And so something else to add to the addendum is that I feel like the etheric bodies of myself and Rondi is pulling together and coming together before we come into physical reunion. And it feels very close, and it feels like it's coming into that space of oneness. And when this happens, you start to feel all this activity in your solar plexus. You start to feel like I kept getting these chills in my body, and that's my soul responding to the truth. My soul is responding to the truth. And being that the part of the second dream with Rondi and the light-skinned guy and us being around people and him coming forward towards me, is that the feelings and the pain that we felt towards humanity, we were able to be in the room around people while he came forward. And it came from that space of, well, it didn't matter to us anymore. And to me, that says that we've gone through so much of that healing phase of how we felt betrayed by humanity. So that's like really a huge breakthrough is what it feels like. It's a huge breakthrough of magnitude. And that's what I'm getting right now as I tap into it more.